Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic, host of Bachelor Nation News. Happy Friday to everyone out there. It is the last day of barrel scraping season. Monday, Zach Shellcross searches for love on his new season of The Bachelor. We'll be live streaming before and after the East Coast episodes there, plus extensive content on Bachelor Rush Hour, the afternoon podcast, where I'll be getting into the weeds and the recap thick of things. I'll be doing longer analysis of the show, and you can catch that all only on Bachelor Rush Hour. So Chris responds to negative feedback. The question is he getting actual feedback, or is he just responding to the surface level stuff? Is he having the hard conversations, all those things people want to hear? Now look, if you're annoyed or by Chris Harrison content, this is probably the most interesting storyline of anything that's happening right now. He's finally got his platform. He's so excited. He released a bonus episode yesterday where he's taking people's calls, or I should say through the producer. So these aren't directly from, these are curated. So it's not just people calling him racist and things like that. It's, which by the way, I'd be interested if you just opened the phone line. That would be fun. But someone calls him insufferable. Why was the first episode all about you? He says, I wanted it to be about me because I haven't talked. We'll get to, that type of thing where it's like, my guess is as his podcast continues to go on, there'll be a through line of the conversations between him and former cast members and ways he could have been better and things like that. The first question someone asked is, do you even know what you were canceled for? And Chris responded in sort of a joking way, like, hey, if you didn't know what I was canceled for, you should have Googled it. And I was like, no, I think the caller knew why he was canceled, but he wanted Chris to sort of dictate it, just to be like, do you even know what you did wrong type of deal. So he kind of plays it off, and some of Chris's humor, like, I just think it's not great or not obvious. It's dry. So maybe there's some times when people don't know if he's joking or not, because it's like not exactly funny, but it's like, are we chummy or are we the facts? It's almost like when a news reporter, it's like, are you delivering the news or is this opinion? But of course now this is his podcast. This is his opinion and his life story. So we're going to listen to it. Let's listen to some of the questions he's getting.
This is a good follow-up question. Ashley is asking if you would step back in and return to The Bachelor or Bachelorette. Would you do that?
Isn't that the $50 million question?
Why do you say $50 million? Is that how much it would take?
I would probably go back to kind of what I said in that last answer, and that is, it is so important who I work with or work for. I don't see a path back. My mom always taught me never say never, and so I won't say that word, but I don't see a path back.
Yeah, the problem if he ever was invited back to the show is then the show would become about him and not about the actual couple. It's like the host is supposed to be, the curtains in the background. It's not supposed to be the story. Like they always say, you never want to be the news. You want to, like for reporters and news people, you want to discuss the news. You never want to be the news.
Where I could find happiness and contentment. And by the way, conversely, my guess is they feel the exact same way.
Yeah, they don't want you. So Chris says, why would I want to work with people that don't want to work with me? And he knows that they threw him under the bus. At least, this is in his opinion. He knows of their skeletons and what they've got going on. So why would he take the fall and then come back to them? That's like some Stockholm Syndrome stuff, right? So I'm going to get to what he said about Hannah Brown. It's mildly interesting. But first, let's go to the caller calling him insufferable.
Learned in relationships, I would apply here. Do I want to get back in bed with that same girlfriend? And usually the answer to that is no.
Metaphorically.
Jen is saying she found the first episode to be insufferable.
Yikes.
And that no one wants to hear how hard the situation was for you and how you couldn't fix it. You should really start taking your own advice of not saying anything. Why did you focus on yourself so much in the episode?
Jen.
I love these. I'm watching.
And in the background, that's Lauren Zima laughing. The producer's reading the questions and Lauren Zima's laughing.
You squirm a little bit.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your
to
feedback.
However many episodes you made it through. I'd be interested to know how long Jen made it. Did you make it all the way through one episode? And if so, I hope you missed the best part, which was LZ in episode 2. I'm sorry that you felt that way about the show, but I felt like the first episode needed to be me talking for the first time in 2 years. I thought if I jumped into the show into this relationship podcast and just said, hey, so we're going to be talking about hooking back up with your ex, boyfriend or girlfriend again, and just acted like nothing happened. And I just started talking about relationships. I thought that would have been really insincere. And I thought you guys would have been thinking, hey, bud, you kind of skipped over a little something.
Now, look, I agree with him. You got to call out the obvious and talk about it. And this is what your podcast is all about. Now, if I had to rank his first episode back, I'd give it maybe a 7 out of 10. He didn't burn bridges or do anything crazy, but it wasn't like a perfect dismount. Like he didn't quench the thirst of people that had questions.
And I thought, and I said this off the very top of that first episode,
C+.
If we are to have this relationship, and that's what this podcast is, it's not only about relationships, it is a relationship. My relationship with you, which has always been paramount to me. If this is going to happen, if we're going to hook up in this way, I needed to bare my soul. I needed to talk to you, and I needed to kind of show all my cards, and I needed to go first.
Now, if I was his publicist, I would have constructed a probably 10-piece note card of the things that I wanted him to cover that pretty much summarized all the questions that are being asked, like exactly why he was canceled, whether he's bitter, what's that? Do you hear this in the background? I just heard a noise. I'm just going to ignore it. Let's keep going.
This will evolve into something very different. We will start talking more about relationships and things going on and have interviews and guests and all that stuff. That will happen. But I just felt like, in all seriousness, those first words from me needed to be meaningful and raw and open and honest. And I'm sorry if it just seemed so much about me, but I'm also just, self-centered narcissist.
So he's obviously kidding. It's just like, I don't know. A lot of people believe that, so maybe that's why he made the joke. What's so funny is I get comments that are like, you're too pro Chris Harrison. And then I get comments, you're too anti Chris Harrison. I think he did a relatively good job with his first episode. I mean, he's probably never done a long form podcast where he has to be the driving force as the host. Everything else, that world he comes from is like pre-planned cute cards, read off this, memorize this line. We're going to jump into this, hit the stinger here. Now it's kind of like, all right, it's free flowing. But with that, you have to have in the back of your mind the notes and the beats you want to hit to make sure that you kind of like knock that out of the park. And this is the beauty of it. If he misses it in episode 1 and everyone's like, but you didn't mention Rachel Lindsay, well then maybe in episode 7 he discusses just his relationship with Rachel Lindsay. It can be ever flowing, ongoing. We don't need all the answers at once. We need to slow down.
I'm a Leo. What are you going to do? Hey, Kendall, are there any nice ones? I'm just kidding.
Hold on, Kendall. I only want them if they're really mean questions.
Lauren loves this. LZ loves watching me squirm. But
this is great.
Hey, in all seriousness, I will say this again. This wasn't about sitting in an echo chamber and having a bunch of people tell you exactly what you want to hear. You get nowhere. There is no growth like that. I want to hear the good. I want to hear the bad. I want to hear the silly. That's what this is all about. Life is messy. There are mistakes. So let's lean into them. Let's own them and let's talk about them. So bring it on as much as I can.
All right. So we'll have to see if we bring it on. He says as much as I can, of course, relating to his non-disclosure agreement.
Do you mean legally?
Yeah.
Mark wants to know if being the host of The Bachelor and Bachelorette for all those years helped your own relationships and dating.
Okay, so that gets kind of boring if you ask me. So you can go listen to the full thing. I want to get to 2 more clips here where he discusses the former leads that have reached out to him, which, by the way, I'm not calling it spineless at all. I just think it's funny when people didn't reach out publicly and everyone was worried about coming off like everyone, it's like when you're a sort of nuclear. Am I pronouncing that right? All the people, no, it's pronounced nuclear or whatever. When you're radioactive, there it is, folks. When you're radioactive, no one wants to talk to you. When I took an interview with Reality Steve last year, maybe a year and a half now at this point, it was like a real question people had, like, oh, you can't talk to him because the subreddits were trying to cancel him and this and that. And you go, no, having conversations is what we're supposed to do. And if we think that good can come from it, have those conversations. And of course, a lot of good came from it. Now you've got Reality Steve, probably the most ethical of reporters within all of Bachelor Nation. Can you believe that? I can. You know why? Because he got feedback, listened to it, adjusted, and grew. We should be rewarding that. Isn't that the thing we all want? All right. Here's what he had to say about Brad Womack.
And a very, very good friend. Brad Womack wrote me maybe the sweetest letter, text letter that I actually just got today because he had listened. And he's funny because, of course, Brad, he's like, I don't listen to podcasts, but I listen to yours. So he just left me this amazing message. And two people that Britta reached out this week after the first 2 episodes aired that, I don't know if surprising is the right word because that kind of puts a negative spin, a negative connotation on it. And I don't mean it like that. But the 2 Hannahs, Hannah Ann and Hannah Brown, both reached out and both had incredibly kind, supportive things to say. And
now, of course, we know Hannah Brown can probably relate to Chris's scenario more than anybody. Hannah Brown, I'm sure if you're Chris Harrison, you're looking at Hannah Brown like, are you kidding me? She's still on TV. She's on the Special Forces, which is a good show. Because Hannah Brown at the, I believe, beginning of the pandemic, maybe months earlier, posted on her Instagram story, drunk, reciting lyrics to a song where she said the N-word in the song. Now, that she apologized and did all that, and she still had to talk about it in her book. I talked about it with her on her book tour Q&A, which, by the way, I'll be doing a Q&A with Katie Thurston live, because legally I don't think I'm allowed to do it with her. I'm kind of blacklisted, if you don't know that, from the producers. They don't even respond to my requests for interviews. But regardless of that, largest independent, whatever, no big deal. But that'll be February 15th in San Diego, a live stand-up show the day after Valentine's Day. We've only got like a small handful of VIP tickets left, and then we've got a couple dozen general admission tickets left. It seats about 220. It's going to sell out. It's at the Comedy Club. Mic drop, link in the comment section if you want to check that out. But yeah, so Chris Harrison or Hannah Brown knows the position where you're under scrutiny for a very hotbed topic.
Hannah Brown wasn't as big of a surprise because Hannah and I have always had this bond and this kind of thing between us that we've always kept up with. And obviously her being the Bachelorette, there was that chemistry there because we were so intimately involved. And
of course, her season of The Bachelorette, she wasn't made the villain. If you listened or read the Game of Roses State of the Bachelor, 4,000 or dissertation that they gave, that they talked about the fact that in recent years, the lead has been made into the villain. Claire, even Katie, certain leads have been made into the villain. And with Hannah Brown's season, she was kind of like the damsel in distress, the sex positive. I can have sex and Jesus loves me too. Of course, moves the podium, deals with Luke P. Jed has a girlfriend at home, all these different things. So she came out looking very rosy. So of course, her and Chris should have had a good experience on the show.
In her life and that relationship. And so that wasn't as big of a surprise. But Hannah Ann actually had reached out and just said, look, we haven't kept in touch as much.
Okay, so the Hannah Ann reaches out, good for them. And then one last one right here, which is finding joy in tough times was the question. Let's have a listen.
Is the most important lesson you learned from all of this and something you would tell someone who messes up in the future?
Heather, I'm not a masochist. I don't mean to sound like I enjoy the tough times, but life isn't a steady ascension. It's not just this simple road from one success to the next, to the next, to the next.
No, it involves a Good Morning America apology, written statements, and then getting, let go from your show. No, but of course, yeah, look, life's about adversity, overcoming it. So whether people want to follow Chris on his next journey, it will be interesting when you follow Human Dynamic to see what he does with the information he has and how he contributes to society moving forward. That's all that matters, right, folks? All right, let me know what you guys think. More content coming your way today. Patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind the scenes bonus content and also Bachelor Rush Hour. You're going to need to be there. I'm posting extra interviews, your voicemails after the show, reactions, things like that. We have a long form conversation happening over there. So I appreciate those that have already supported and those that are on their way. Link in the comment section below for that and tickets to the stand-up show. All right, folks, we'll be back with more content right after this.